Um,
Is this one the one that works?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. And if you can just speak really close into it when you do.
Like this.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
So these talks go even faster than I remembered. So I'm going to be as brief as possible and let you really have the most time to express yourself about the project. Terry's an American photographer, and I'm particularly pleased to be speaking with you today, given how central the photo book is to your photographic practice.
It is.
Since your first book in 1997, In Your Dreams, I think you're close to 20 books published since then. And so it's really interesting for us to kind of hear more about the place of the book in your practice and that process. The book that we're going to be talking about is Cloud Physics, which has been published by Atelier EXB. And the book is made up of work that centers around images made at a US research facility
Right.
on the study of clouds, and for which you were awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship in 2015.
Right.
Just to begin, could you just tell us how that you discovered this facility, you came to this subject, and ended up visiting this facility to take these photographs?
Sure. I had been interested in nature and clouds for a long time. I was thinking about photography in relation to sciences. It was kind of rolling around in my mind and had been for years. And I was thinking that clouds was actually the perfect link between something ephemeral, like art and making work, and also data, which would be the sciences. And I really actually had no idea that there were that only studied clouds, but they're an atmosphere. And I ended up at a party where there was a man that worked for NYU, New York University, and he was an administrator that actually put the sciences, made programs with the sciences and combined them with the arts and other disciplines. So I ended up talking to him, and he said, well, you know, I know this site that's called the Atmospheric Radiation Measurement Site, and it's in Oklahoma, and it sounds like you'd like to visit it. It's the most studied column of air in the world, and it studies clouds and the atmosphere. And it's there basically because it's so flat that there's nothing that actually disturbs the atmosphere. So it's very, very pure in the data that it can get. I said yes immediately and was given a small grant that covered my expenses, which was really wonderful. This was 2014, so like John Tonks, it's a 7-year situation. So I went there, and I found this broad acreage with these instruments just kind of peppered all over the landscape, and they looked like avant-garde sculptures. And I was really interested in what they did. I didn't understand everything they did. They measure particles, they measure photons and things like that. So I went and I photographed these kind of as portraits. It seemed like what they were asking is they were almost almost anthropomorphic, and that I needed to treat them with respect. A lot of the instruments have you can't actually see the instrument. It's what protects the instrument that you're looking at, because the environment's pretty rough. So.
And as we've been seeing through the pages of the book, we've seen those photographs of the instrument, those portraits as you call them, but there's also some kind of scientific data that's actually visualized in the book. And over time, you've become known for your photographs of the natural world, and particularly, your almost at times mystical visual approach to these spaces. And I think it's a really interesting contrast to, in a sense, the other end of the spectrum, to have this, mechanical, extremely precise, the other end of the spectrum from the poetic, if you like, to integrate that in with your images. So is that something you decided early on, beyond the portraits of the instruments themselves, to kind of integrate this scientific aspect to the book?
I've always been interested in it, but my first book, In Your Dreams, I actually titled the photographs the date that I took them, and the idea is this exists. This is, in a way, that's data, but it's real. It happened. It's not the ephemeral photograph. It's not just visceral. It's exact. And so this thought process came out of that, and I just became more and more interested in. Hello. This is the process for putting the ephemeral with the data. So the data becomes even more specific than the date would be. So.
And there's another aspect of the book that I found surprising is after the kind of initial surprise of these scientific instruments and data readings, the book is primarily these images of the natural world, but then there are also other images. So there's some images of two boys swimming. There's an image of what I think is a Japanese cityscape as well, where, let's say, the kind of there's a less literal presence of clouds and humidity, and I'm curious as to how those other images have kind of made their way into the book.
As I was doing the book, I realized that clouds basically provide life. I mean, they provide water, and that it kind of segued or flowed into the idea that we are all dependent on this. We're all dependent on this water. We're all dependent on the particles that create clouds, and that we're also in it kind of together. And the thought process was that as humans, we're controlling it in a certain way, or nature is controlling us. It depends on how you look at it. But at this moment, it's pretty difficult. And animals and our relationship with nature, I wanted to show very specifically in a positive way, in a way where we can look at it and actually, I don't know, maybe know what we're losing or know what we're gaining at certain points. So.
And I think that's a fascinating perspective. I mean, I can't help thinking, listening to you now, that this is the final day of COP26. And, that obviously this is not a protest book or, a book that is a kind of an activist statement on climate change or something of that nature. But I'm curious as to whether you did think about kind of its relationship to the current conversations around these issues.
Yes, definitely. It's always in my mind, and I wanted the book to be something that lets you think about it in a positive way, that you could come to it without being hit with negativity and images that hurt and make you cringe. I wanted it for you to look at this and think, wow, we're losing this poetry. We're losing this if we don't take care of it. So it's more a celebration in a way of what we have, rather than look at the things we're doing that are not good.
Absolutely. Okay, so I will. We have time to take one question from the audience. We have anybody that would like to ask Terri, a question? Okay, well, I will be greedy then and take another question for myself.
Okay.
I know that that you're a keen gardener and have been for many, many years.
Who told you that?
I found some sources on
Okay,
this, and I'm
okay.
curious as to if there's what relationship gardening has with your photographic practice. If there's some kind of mutual influence, or if they're kind of two completely separate spheres of your life.
Well, I think both, but I have this dream of making a garden that I can photograph, so that I'm doing both sides of it. In the garden is nature. This is where things begin and end. It is a life process. It's everything that. So it's. I learn from gardening what animals have to do with. Just basically pollinating, and how snails can be positive and slugs maybe not. And all of this is information that is somehow or another portrayed in this. So in my photography.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Terri.
Thank you.
The book, which you can see here, is available on Atelier EXB stand. I can't remember the number. SE7.
SE7.
Just round the corner, so you can spend more time with the book there and really go through what is a very complex, layered project that we could have spent a lot more time discussing. But thank you very much for your time, Terri.
Thank you.